The capital J is a typical thick vertical stroke down to a nice thin swoosh below the baseline. Just bring it over real gracefully and bring it up just slightly like that. And then you want to do your right side of your stroke, overlapping 50%. And when you're getting down there, right at the bottom, you want to start lifting up because you want to maintain that thin stroke down there. That's what's going to make this look elegant. The other reason is that this is the other reason I like to have all four guidelines, because if I was going to make another J in another word with a capital J in maybe the next word down, I have a guide for me of line spacing, and keep these little finishes small as in all the others. It looks much better, much more graceful. And then finish it off with your serif and you're done. So yeah, I just will automatically put all four guidelines in for this. This is a really good example of why, is because let's say you were going to have two words that were consecutive that had a capital J. Now you have you know, a way to gauge where to start and end that swoosh. The lowercase j is similar to the uppercase. Obviously has the I beginning with this 45-degree arcing stroke. And then this time you're going to bring your brush vertical and follow the axis down. And you're going to make this swoosh, but it's not going to be as far to the left. It's going to be just a slighter, smaller swoosh. Otherwise, it looks very odd to have if it's the same size as the capital down there. And then tuck your brush in, flat brush in, to make your thick stroke. And just like the uppercase, now you're going to follow that swoosh to the thin stroke and taper it off. A little tidying up here. Finish it off with your brush on edge, pulling it into the stroke, making a small circular dot. And I made a little mistake, so I'm going to push that up into it, like that, with my rubber eraser, so it flows right into that thin stroke. Now just take my very flat brush, start at the end of the little finial and draw it up into it to finish it off. Clean it up. So I want all those to look as the same as I can in all the letters. And then for the dot, same as the I, you want to make it as thick as the thick part of your stroke. Make the left side of the oval, then the right side of the oval, and then fill in. That's what's nice about one shot, is that you can push it around. You'll clean up the top of the letter, and you're done. A few things to be mindful of with the capital K is, of course, the letter width. You want to be consistent with the others. And then also the thin stroke, just come slightly above halfway point. And that's a good spot to just keep in your mind. And then also the bottom leg inside, make equal distance with the top, and you will have it locked in. These are the kind of mechanical things that if you can just lock them in your mind, that A to B point, then you have a lot more freedom to execute and enjoy the letter. But if you can just get those initial concepts and ideas from A to B mechanical, then you will have a lot more freedom, and especially if you decide to change the letter to be bolder or thinner or condensed or extended and so on. So you start out with the K with the standard thick stroke, vertical. Then now you're going to come in the direction, the brush is at the direction of the angle, and I'm coming down just slightly above the halfway point with a nice straight line. And then I'm going to come in and I'm lining myself up now in my head. You saw me with my brush do that. Just slightly above. Don't tuck it in that corner. Come up slightly on that thick stroke and then meet down where you see in your mind's eye. Or you can even strike a line if that helps until you get that dialed in your head. And then of course you finish off with a nice flared thick stroke of the leg to finish that off. And at this point, you're done. You can just serif out of this letter. So you just go ahead and make sure again that your serifs are equal length to keep that consistency going. That consistency of those details really are what make the letter elegant. And then once you've mastered this alphabet, you can always have fun with it and, you know, do other things with the serifs and things like that. But the idea here is to just really dial in the mechanics of this alphabet. And of course, you only do the one side on that lower leg, the serif, and palette your brush out flat. And then that thin stroke above, start out flat, and then I twisted counterclockwise, and this one I didn't twist at all. I just followed the contour of the arc. It was because the brush was already set up there. And I just had to do a little finishing touch. See, that's a real easy finish. The key to the lowercase k is that loop. Start just a little above the halfway point and make a nice graceful loop, oval shape if you will, down to about the halfway point of your lowercase guidelines. Starting with a flat brush vertical thick stroke, follow your axis. Come up a little short at that guideline down below because you'll have plenty of room with your serif and the rounds to finish it off nicely. Don't feel like you have to go from guideline to guideline on these where there's going to be serif all the way across. That's your saving grace for these bottom lines. And in this case, we're finishing off by squaring off this stroke on this letter at the bottom. And then at the top, it only gets a half serif. Here's where we start our loop, just slightly above the halfway point. Get your brush flat and in the direction that you're going to make the loop, making a straight line. I mean, not a straight line, but getting it lined up in the direction that you're going to go make a nice graceful coming off of your thick stroke, giving yourself a nice gap there, swing it around. I'm spinning my fingers clockwise and coming to about the halfway point between the two lowercase guidelines. Now to make the leg, just put it right in that corner, the inside stroke. Come down and thinking in terms of the width of the letter from the thick stroke to the loop. That's where you want to end it at the bottom. And then stop short because you're going to make a terminal right there. So don't go all the way down to the guideline. And then you can make your terminal and finish everything off down below. Now you're set. All you have to do is make the thick on that loop, and the lowercase k is done. You want to follow your brush with the direction that the thin line's going, Bring it in, swooping, push down, start to lift up, and draw it right into that thin on the bottom, on lower thin, just like that. Uppercase L is pretty simple, starting out with the standard thick vertical stroke, doubling it up, tucking in that guideline just a little bit, come down, kind of flare it. Now also, this is where you want to establish the width by going ahead and creating the beak, and that follows the italic axis, and it would be the same length as like an E or etc. And now you have your A to B point, so you can start at your serif, go all the way across horizontally, and meet your point. This is a good time to go ahead and fill in that serif, that beak, and draw it into that horizontal, fill in, do your round on the lower serif, little touch up in the corner, make it tight, and with a retracted brush still, I'm just going to go ahead and execute the upper serif, flatten out the brush to round it off. The brush will be horizontal, and then I'll just pull down and to the right, and the other side will be pulled down to the left. Lowercase l is a long pull and a clockwise twist to taper off to a point. Here I just started off a little off the axis, and then when I went to reset, I bumped up beyond the guidelines. So I'm just going to go ahead and push that back down and start again with a flattened out brush, nice and chiseled. Go ahead and start right into the guideline, pulling down along the axis, and then when I get right about here, I start spinning tight, pulling it over to the right. Double up, or 50% overlap. Come down, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. As soon as I get down to the end down there, I'm going to start spinning clockwise to meet that point. That'll give me my nice tapered point at the bottom. This gets a half serif, so we're just going to slide that into place and go ahead and round that off. Add the terminal at the bottom. My hesitancy is making sure I'm matching others of like kind so that I have a same angle and same length. That's just one of the things I like to be mindful of. A little bit of finishing touches.